Okay, today when we start with the object-oriented concepts, the first thing and the most important thing in object-oriented programming is classes. Okay, now classes can be set as a user-defined prototype for an object that defines a set of attributes. And what are these attributes? Your attributes are nothing but your data members, like your class variables, your instance variables. These are your data members. And also, of course, the methods. So whenever you define a class, okay, the class will contain data members and methods. The methods and the data members can be accessed through the dot notation, or the operator, you can call it dot operator. Okay, whenever you want to declare a class, we make use of the class keyword. So let us take an example, and whenever I come across some special concept, I'll just let you know. Okay, so I'll declare one class by the name employee. So I have the keyword class. Please remember, C is small here. Okay, the name of my class will be followed by this. So I can write here employee. So this becomes my class. Put a colon at the end. This will be the beginning of my class. Now the first statement after you declare the name of the class, after the colon, is my documentation part. Okay, your class documentation, which can be given in single quote. If you remember, even in function, when we defined a function, the first line after giving the name and the colon, we used to give some text. Okay, this text was nothing but for your documentation. So I can give a single quote here and declare some, or put some statements here. Let us say a common base class for all the employees. Let us say for all the employees. Okay, so whenever I'm trying to use or make use of this employee class, okay, you will get this string below it, which will define or which will tell me something about this class. Clear? So remember the first statement. You cannot put this comments after declaring a variable, please. Okay, you have to give it at the beginning. If you want, you can ignore it and directly start with declaring your variables or defining your functions and so on. Clear? The next thing what I'll be doing here is I'll be creating or defining a variable. So let us have a variable called employee count. Okay, EMP count, and I'll assign 0 to it. Okay, now when I do this, this becomes a class variable. Okay, what is a class variable? A variable that is shared by all instances of a class. And what do you mean by an instance of a class? Whenever we create an object from this class, what happens? An instance is created. It is also known as instantiation. That means creation of an object from the given class. Okay, so whenever we declare a variable inside the class but outside the method, it is known as your class variable. Clear? Then we'll define a method so that I can initialize my variables or declare some variables if you want. Okay, now the first definition or the first function which I'll be writing here is your init function. You need to have double underscore followed by init. Okay, again end it with double underscore. Okay, now what this init means? Your init is a constructor. Okay, now there is a concept called constructor and destructor in classes. Constructor is executed whenever we declare a variable. Now there are inbuilt constructors, you can say. If you do not want to write this method or the constructor in it, it is majorly used for initializing your variables. Okay, if you do not want to write it, the default inbuilt constructor will get executed. And if you write it, the method which you are writing or the constructor which you are writing will now override the inbuilt constructor. Okay, and the inbuilt constructor gets executed whenever you create an object. Whereas you can make a call to the user defined constructor. So this becomes my user defined because I'm writing the code for it. Okay. Please remember, you always start with double underscore quotes. And remember, now there's a concept called private and public. Okay. In Python, all your classes variables are usually public. Okay. If you do not specify, by default, it is a public variable. It's a public method. If I want to create a private or protected variable or method, then there are some characters which have to be used. And this two, you can say double underscore. This indicates that it is a private method. Okay. So all your private variables or methods, okay, in this case, it is a constructor, will be private. What do you mean by a private variable or a method? It cannot be accessed from outside. Okay. We need to create an object. Okay. And then through that, I can access it. Clear? We will see some examples of private and protected variables and methods later. Now, to begin with, we are writing a constructor, and the name of the constructor here is init. Okay. It starts with double underscore. It ends with double underscore, followed by a round bracket.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So you mean that whenever we declare a private constructor or a private class method, we have to declare it with double underscore.
Double underscore. Yes.
All right. All right.
Okay. Right now, what we are going to do, because it is a constructor, by default, it has to be private. Okay. So all your constructors are private, but methods which you declare without using the double underscore sign, it will be public. So there's no keyword like in Java and other languages. We have keywords like protected, private, public. Okay. We do not have keywords here. Just by using the underscore, we can either make it protected or we can make it private. If I use a single underscore, it will be protected. And if I make use of double underscore, it becomes private. Okay. I hope this is clear. It is just the underscores which will differentiate between protected, public, and private. So here we have a constructor. The name of the constructor is init. Okay. Remember, double underscores should be there. The first parameter is a keyword called self. Now, self usually is always there with your methods. Okay, your constructors, especially when you're using a class method. Okay. Now, self indicates the current, or it refers to the current object. Okay. It is like something, a reference to the current object. So always give this keyword self when you're declaring your methods. Okay. Followed by the parameters which you want to pass to this particular constructor. So let me put a parameter called name, and we'll put salary. So I'll put sal. Okay. Followed by again your colon. Or if you want, you can also give the full name salary. Press enter. Fine. Here I'm going to now initialize my variables name and salary. So I'll write self dot. You can see now when I use dot, I get some variables. Here you have name here. Okay. So self dot name equal to name. Okay. Now there is a difference between self dot name and the name variable here. Your name variable, which is inside that round brackets as arguments, are your parameters. And when I write self dot name, this becomes a variable, a local variable, a local variable of this particular class. It is not a class variable, please remember. It's declared inside. Your class variable is only EMP count. Why? Because I have declared outside the method. It is not a part of the method. Okay. So I have a variable called name, which is initialized to the parameter name. Then I can write self dot salary equal to sal. Okay. I'm purposely writing salary to show you the difference. If this gives you an error, okay, that means sal and salary is two different things. So this will initialize my variables. Plus, whenever I assign these two things, I'll increment my counter, EMP count. Okay. Now to access the class variables, I have to make use of the name of the class. So what is the name of my class here? Employee. So I'll use employee dot and the name of the variable, EMP count. Now this I have to increment by 1. So I'll use plus equal to 1. Okay. This completes my definition of the constructor init. Okay. Let us write a user defined method so that I can display the employee details. So I'll write def display employee. Okay. In this, because I'm going to display it, I'm not going to pass any parameters. I'll just write self. As I told you, self will refer to the current object, or it will referring to the reference of the object. In this, I'll write a print statement. Okay, I'll write name, colon, comma. Now to access the name variable, always make use of the self keyword, self.name. Okay. Then I'll also display the, so I'll put a /n to go to the new line, and I'll display the salary here. Put a comma and self.salary. Okay, this completes my simple method. One more method, if I want to display how many employees do I have. So let us declare one method for displaying count. So display count. Again, here I'll be passing, excuse me. I'll be passing self here as a reference to the current object. Put a colon, okay, and I'll print the total employee. I'll use %d now. Okay, as you know, %d is your format specifier, which indicates that something has to be printed here, and %d means integer value. Okay, and the parameter for this will be given using the % sign. And to access the class variable, I make use of the class name followed by EMP count. Okay, complete your round brackets. That's end of my, so I'll have only one statement here. Okay, this completes my class employee. Okay, in the same program or in the same file, I will try to create an object of this particular file and access it. Okay, to create an object, we are simply going to write one variable here, say EMP1 equal to employee. Okay, and in the round brackets, I'm going to pass two parameters. Now you can see as soon as I put the round bracket, I get this information here. It tells me the name of the employee and the two parameter list here. And you can see the document which I told you, the string which I passed on line number 9. Okay, the file doc, you can say, common base class for all the employees. This message is getting displayed here. So let us pass some names. So in double quotes, I'll put J, the comma, and salary, let us give him 30,000. Okay. And I can now just, I'll display the value and check whether it is really working. And then we'll create one more object. So employee 1 dot, I can say display employee. So we have this function here, display employee. Okay. Complete the round brackets, no parameters required. Press enter. Now it's giving me some error here. EMP1. What is the error? Undefined EMP1. Or it is L, sorry, 1. Clear? Now I'll run this one. Okay. Here you can see I have the name and the salary as 30,000. Clear? Any doubts here? Okay, no doubts. Let us create one more object. So here I'll create EMP2 equal to, again, employee. Let us put Vijay here, and I'll give him 45,000 as the salary. Now I can EMP1 dot. Now what I'll do is I'll use EMP1 and try to display the number of employees which are created. That is the employee count. Display count, I'll use that function. So let us put display count, okay, and run this. Okay, according to you, how many employees should be created? 1 or 2? And please remember, I'm using the object EMP1. Now, because your variable EMP count is a class variable, okay, whatever changes are happening to this particular variable will be reflected in all the objects. Okay, remember, if I have a variable, like we have 2 variables which is declared inside the constructor init, right? So name and salary are variables belonging to an individual object. That is, EMP1 will have a different name and a different salary. EMP2 will have a different name and a different salary. Whereas the EMP count, which is a class variable, will be common to both these objects. Okay, so I'll just execute this, and here you can see the total employee is coming to 2. Okay, even though I'm using EMP1, even if I use EMP2 and use display count, it is going to give me 2. Okay, so in both the cases, why it is 2? Because it's a class variable, and all the class variables are accessible to all the objects. Let us display, instead of, I'll display the employee as well, the details, display employee. Okay, and now I run this, and I get the name, salary, and the total number of employees. Okay. Now, anyone, can you give me the definition of an object? As I told you, I have on line number 25, I've created an object. Okay, what do you mean by this? And what is an object? No one? Okay, an object can be called as an instance of a class or instance of a data structure. Now, this whole thing is nothing but a data structure, okay? The word which can be used for this class here, okay? And what it contains, an object is containing both your data members, that is your class variables, or your instance variable. What are instance variables? Your name and salary. These 2 are your instance variable, which belongs to the method, okay? And it is only accessible if I create an object, whereas EMP count is your class variable. Plus, your object also contains your methods. There are 2 methods which I have defined here, display employee and display count. Clear? Any doubts? Fine, no doubts. Now let us see how to access a particular attribute from outside the class. So if I want to make changes to my, let us say I want to make the change for the salary which I have given to the employee number 1, EMP1. So what I can do is I can just write EMP1 dot, okay, salary. Now you can see the variable salary is accessible outside here, equal to, now instead of 30,000, let me give him 40,000. Okay. And now when I display it, so I'll copy this line and display it here. Fine. Let us run this. Okay. You can see the salary for Jay previously was 30,000, and now I have changed it to 40,000. So I can directly access the instance variable by just using the name of the object followed by the dot notation and the name of the attribute. Okay, this is one way. If you want to add a new attribute to this particular object, even that is possible. Okay, so let us say after adding the salary, I want to add a new attribute to employee one. So I write employee one, emp1 dot. Let us say I want to add age. I write age equal to say 25. Okay. Now, even though I have not declared any variable here, there's no instance variable which is created inside my class. So I don't have an age variable there. But still, if I want from outside the class, I can add one attribute like this. Okay, and when I display, it should give me the age. So when I run this, okay, now because I'm using the display method, and in the display method, I do not have this name. I have only name and salary. I do not have age there. So let me display it here. So I'll write age, comma, emp1 dot age. Now you can see we have a variable here, age. Okay, and I can run this now. Right? So now age is now a part of the employee or emp1 object. Okay, we can also check whether we have the attribute. If I want to find out what are the different structure, the structure of my class. So let us check the structure of both these objects first. So I'll use a keyword called dict. Okay, so I can write here print into bracket. Let us use underscore. Okay, double underscore dict round bracket, and I'll just execute this line to check whether it's not defined. Okay, fine. Let me check. I have not passed any parameters for the class, so I'll put emp1 here. Okay, and try to display this. Let me check. Okay, object is not callable. Okay, I cannot display it from here. Okay, I'll access it from somewhere else. Before that, let us see the attributes. If suppose I want to display the whole employee, or I want to display the attributes using some different function, the inbuilt functions. There are some inbuilt function like has attribute. Okay, this is one function which tells me whether I have the attribute which is specified in the parameter. So this will give me either true or false. So I hope I can access this now. Let me give a print has attribute and check whether I have the attribute in employee one. So I'll use emp1. Okay, I'll put a comma and I want to check age. So A is small here. So age, and complete this round bracket. Let us execute this whole thing. Okay, here you can see now it is accessible and it gives me true. That means the variable age is an attribute of this object emp1. Okay. Similarly, I can also say if I want to retrieve a value. Now, in the previous case, what we did, we used the display employee method, or we can also directly make use of the print statement. I can write emp.salary, okay, and I can display the salary. The other way of displaying it is using the get attribute function. So again, I can make use of the print function, okay, and the round bracket. In the print function, I can write employee one salary, put a colon, okay, And here I'll use the function get attribute attr. Okay. In this, I'm going to pass the object name first. So emp1 is my object. And from this, I want to remove the salary. So salary is in small case, so I'll use salary. Okay. Let us press enter. Okay. Any error? Invalid syntax. Is there any problem here? No, let us write only this much and check whether it is working. emp1 salary. Or let us write s equal to, whether this works. Okay, anyone can guess what the error is here? Invalid syntax. emp1. When has attribute worked, why not get attribute? Let us try changing this. I hope salary is right. emp1 is right. Let me rewrite this whole thing. There's something wrong here. Okay, there's a round bracket which is missing. Fine. Print, and now I can say get attribute emp1, comma, in single quotes, comma, in single quotes, salary. Okay. Now this is fine. Run this. Okay, here you can see the salary for employee 1, which we had changed to 40,000, can be displayed. Okay, so the error was not on the statement. The previous statement had a missing round brackets. Now you can also assign or set a values. Instead of using the equal to operator, I can use set command here, set attribute. Okay, right, in the round brackets. Now let us say in employee 2, emp2, okay, I want to change the salary of employee 2. So I write sal, and now the new value which I want to give, let us give 50,000. Okay, and here I will print emp2 dot display emp. Okay, let us run this one. Now you can see here, after assigning 50,000, the new salary for Vijay is 50,000. So there are some functions. Now, if I want to delete an attribute, you can delete attribute as well. Now your del operator, if you remember previous also we have used it, del. This is also known as a destructor. Okay, like we have init as a constructor, we have del as a destructor, which will destroy your attribute. Okay, so if I want to remove this age, so let us remove age from employee 1 dot age. Okay, press enter. I'll execute this line, and later on what I can do is I can try to display the value and check whether it is really accessible. So I'll use employee 1 dot display, or try to use print statement, in fact, because it's not a part of the class there, and try to display emp1 dot age. Okay, so I have deleted this, so this should give me an error because it is not available anymore. So here you can see, because it was deleted, now it says employee object has no attribute age. Okay, just before that I have deleted that. Okay, there's one more way of deleting your attributes by using del attribute att or attribute like this. Give the name of the object. Let us say I want to remove salary now. Okay, and now when I display employee 1, display employee. And run this one. Now, because this is going to give me an error, I'll just mark this as a comment. I'll run this. And now you can see after deleting the salary attribute, it is giving me an error. Salary not found. Clear? So either ways, either you make use of the inbuilt function, has attribute, get attribute, set attribute, and del attribute to delete there. Or you can also directly make use of del, or you can access the variables directly through the methods which are available. Okay, please remember del is nothing but your destructor. Clear? Let us quickly write one more code. Okay, I'll declare a variable, a class, and I'll give you an example of the destructor here itself. So I'll have a class, a new class by the name, say, let us put point xy. Okay, this is my class name. Put a colon, or I'll put P as capital so that when I save this file, it becomes easy for me. I'll declare init, okay, into round bracket self, comma. I have two coordinates here, point coordinates x, comma, y. Okay. One more thing, whenever you're declaring or you're initializing your variables, okay, if suppose the user does not pass any variable or value to the particular object, let us, for example, in this case, we have two variables x and y, and I do not want to pass any values here. You can also assign some default values. So if it is the parameters are not passed, it is going to use the default values and initialize the variables. So let us put some default values here. Okay, and here I can write self dot say x equal to x, okay, self dot y equal to y. Fine, that's it here. And I'll write the destructor as well. So I can define the destructor. Again, it is starting with double underscore sign, del, okay, and into round bracket self. So this becomes my definition for the destructor. And here I just write my class name. So I have class underscore name. It's a variable equal to self dot underscore class name. So this is a variable. So the name of the class, okay, will be stored in this variable class name. Clear? And then I give a print statement which says that I have destroyed the variable. So I said I put the class name underscore name, okay, I put comma and I say destroyed. Okay, so let us see how the objects are getting destroyed. And quickly outside, I'll declare an object here, say P1 equal to, we have point xy. Now here, I do not pass any value. If you want, you can keep it as it is. Okay, so the default values will be used. And I print the values of x and y. Okay, so x, let me display only x right now, and I'll run this one. Okay, here you can see 10 was the default value which got displayed. Fine. Now let us also refer, I'll come down here and I say del P1. Okay, when I say del P1, what happens? It is going to destroy my object, and you can see here point xy destroyed. Okay, so what is happening? When I give del P1, this destructor gets executed, and I have given a print statement here which gets printed. Clear? Now to give you one more example, I'll declare two more objects, P2. I'll write P2 equal to P1, and I write P3 equal to P1. Okay, and I'm going to display the ID of this particular objects. Now there is a function called ID which I can be used. So P1, okay. I'll also make use of P2 and P3. Okay. Let me not delete this right now. I'll mark this as a comment. Let us execute this. Okay. Now you can see the references. These are my addresses, you can see, or IDs of your object P1. Now what happens is P2, P3 are now pointing to the same reference. That's why the addresses, you can say these are the addresses, or the IDs are same. Now if I delete P1, okay, P1, and I use P2 to display the value of X. Okay, so P2X, let me give print here. Okay, I have deleted this. Let us run this one. Okay, so after deleting, you can see this. I have also displayed the value of X using P2. That means there's only a particular reference which is there, and all P1, P2, and P3 are pointing towards the same reference. Okay, and even though I have deleted P1, P2 and P3 are still there. Okay, and because they are referring to the same, you can say reference or the ID or the block in the memory, I'm able to access the variable X and Y. So even if I want, I can say P3 and I'll use Y here. Okay, I have only 1 minute left. Quickly we can complete this, and you can see this. After completing the whole thing, you can also find the destroyed option. So when I try to close my file, the object will also be destroyed. So by default, what happens? The objects are destroyed when the program is terminated. Okay, and that's the reason. In fact, we should have got this point XY destroyed before also. Okay, when the program got stopped or when the program ended, it should have given you this message, point XY destroyed. I'll just stop the recording.